Welcome Home, a podcast for veterans about veterans by veterans, is a project of Willing Warriors and the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run.
Good morning. I'm your host, Larry Ziliaks, Director of Culinary Services here at the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run. And this week, my guest is Scott English. He's the president of the Pritzker Military Museum and Library, which is located in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And for those listeners that are not all that familiar with Wisconsin, it is in the lower right-hand corner. It's a really pretty little city right up against the Lake Michigan, and not far from Chicago. It's probably straight up 94. You're probably looking at a little bit over an hour, if the traffic's not crazy, to get from the loop up to the museum. So anybody in and around the Chicago area listening, there's no excuse not to go for a visit. And also they have a big gala coming up, which we'll talk more about. And Scott is the president, and if I'm not mistaken, you're not prior service, are you, Scott?
No, sir. I came here from the nonprofit space in Pennsylvania, and then I was in public service before that.
And this is this Pritzker Military Museum and Library was actually founded by a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel by the name of Jennifer N. Pritzker. And so I'm assuming that she is responsible for the initial funding, and is she related at all to the Pritzkers of Illinois?
She is a Pritzker of Illinois. She is cousin to the current governor of the state of Illinois. Colonel Pritzker started the library. It started as a library about 25 years ago. Really, she was a pack rat and a book collector, and had about 10,000 items in her library, and needed a tax-friendly way of managing that collection. And so she started the Pritzker Library. Next thing you know, it got a space. It started having speakers. People wanted to make donations. And then it just sort of evolved into what is now today the Pritzker Military Museum and Library. We moved from Chicago in 2024 up to Kenosha. I started as president last August and have been in process of really setting the next chapter for the PMML in Kenosha.
Wow. And you come from the nonprofit world. You previously managed a kind of rough and tumble largest stamp collectors organization in the world, right?
That is correct. The American Philatelic Society and the American Philatelic Research Library, located in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania. I was the director for 10 years there. I was hired to take over and fix their financial problems, which we succeeded at doing. And then I had so much fun 10 years, I said, it's time for me to get out of the way and let somebody else come in. And I did. And it timed perfectly with an opportunity like this. And I think, as I tell my successor at the APS, worked out great for both of us.
And do you find that that your role with the Pritzker Museum is similar in fashion to what you did there in Pennsylvania? Is it sort of the same thing, just a different collection?
So I was raised by a Marine. My father served in the United States Marine Corps. My father-in-law was a 22-year veteran of the Navy. And the thing that I learned from both of them is this idea of community. And when you work for stamp collectors, when you work for the military community, it's the same thing. It starts there. And so, yes, we have a museum. Yes, we have a library. But those things are inconsequential if you don't have community. And so my goal has been, both at the APS and now here, is the of creating that community and building on that community. So we've changed a little bit of our focus since I've come there to do more with veterans service organizations, with veterans communities themselves, with people who've served in any number of different ways. Military families. I never want to overlook the military families. They sacrifice almost as much as our soldiers do. And bringing them in, and that's the community that I want to start with, because those are the stories that we're telling.
Do you find that the community there in Kenosha is pretty receptive to not only the museum being located where they are, and I'm sure it brings people into the community that spend money, but that it gives a place for veterans to tell their story, but also bring friends, relatives, and people to see the collection to better understand the veterans' story, actually.
I think one of the biggest challenges we have to, I'll start with this, which is I'm a East Coast young man by birth. I was born and raised in Maryland. I lived in Washington, D.C. for 11 years, lived in South Carolina, lived in Pennsylvania. So I've never been to the Midwest until my wife and I relocated here for this.
Mm.
I found is a very welcoming community in Kenosha. I live just a couple of miles down the road from the museum itself in Summers, which is just outside Kenosha.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an incredible community. The Midwesterners are very friendly folks, and they make you feel at home. What I found with the museum itself, though, and working with our community here, it's that being service connected isn't as common as it used to be. When I was growing up, I knew a lot of us that served in Vietnam, had served in the Army, were part of the National Guard, run down the list of things. What I noticed with the global war on terror, even though I wasn't working, even though I was an active duty person, I was working with a lot of veterans communities and military communities, both in Washington and down in South Carolina. And I saw that the universe of service connectedness got smaller.
Mm.
So I think our museum's mission now is to reintroduce that connection in a different way by telling the authentic stories of people that serve and giving people an opportunity to meet a soldier for the first time, or for the first time when they've not had an opportunity to do it before, because there are fewer people out there who are called up to, especially to combat service. And we know this with the global war on terror, that there were so many different soldiers who were being cycled back and forth again to Iraq and Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to now create a forum and a place for people to meet soldiers and veterans for the first time is very important. And people have welcomed us with open arms as a result of that.
And is this where your focus on the citizen soldier grew out of, or how did that come about?
So the interesting lane for a lot of museums is to pick a conflict. Often, you have the World War II Museum, which is a partner of ours down in New Orleans. You have the Cantigny, which is very much on the First Division. Mm-hmm. So you're very conflict oriented or very geographic oriented. We took a different approach, and the reason why we took this approach is because the authentic stories of soldiers are so diverse that you want to be able to tell that lived experience and be able to share with the audience what it was like to be a soldier in different perspectives. Right? It doesn't matter what story we want to tell, there's something there that people can identify with and connect with. And so being able to share those stories has a lot of power to it. It's got a lot of personality to it. And what we found is people are embracing it in that way.
And what kind of veteran stories do you think are still underrepresented today?
I had a great conversation. I was at an event today with, because we're working on bringing an exhibit up called Above and Beyond, which is outside of the wall in Washington, D.C. It's the only other Vietnam veteran memorial where every name of the service members that were killed in Vietnam exists.
Mm.
But while I was at that event, I actually got grabbed by a Korean War veteran who said, our stories don't get told nearly enough. And, he is pitching me on the idea of doing more Korea-focused events because we still have a handful of Korean War veterans left, but obviously we know we know a lot about World War II, we know a lot about Vietnam, but a lot of things other than the television show MASH, I don't know that a lot of people ever have any real understanding of what happened in Korea, and so. I think that's probably a conflict that deserves some more attention. I would also say this: in the 1980s, if you look at things like Grenada and what we did in Panama, those were active conflicts. They were very significant in the moment, but don't necessarily get a lot of attention outside of that moment. And so I think being able to preserve those stories, particularly while we still have veterans here that served in those events, would be useful.
How do you balance preserving history and making it relative to a younger generation?
And that's a challenge that a lot of museums have been going through, particularly in the post-COVID era, where, when we saw in the pandemic, a lot of museums saw a drop off in their attendance. The way that we're approaching it is we don't want to have a bias towards being physically in the space. That is, We have 12,000 items that are digitized on our website today.
Mm.
So you can already go there and see 12,000 different artifacts that we have in our collection. You can engage them, understand them, learn more about them. We have a wealth of information between the programs that we produced, television programs that we produced, which are about 600, as well as the oral histories that we've collected. We have almost 400.
Mm.
My first mission was, when I pitched my strategic plan to the board, the way that I couched it is, I want to be rooted locally, I want to be relevant nationally, and I want the experience to be consistent no matter how you engage us. And so what I want to be able to do is take the treasure trove of information we have, and there are a lot of museums out there that have these same treasure troves, and I want to make them as accessible as humanly possible. So over the next year, we'll be developing all of that in, a new website, into a new visitor experience on the site, in the site itself. But it's all going to be very much content driven, and we know that that's always going to appeal to a younger audience.
Mm.
Whether it's, I hate to use TikTok because I think that's not the most ideal way of delivering information, but it's got to be in those digestible video bites where people can watch something but in the time frame that they have allowed to them, right? Because life is coming at you from so many different directions. So being able to take an hour-long oral history and turn it into useful nuggets of information that are packaged together in 5 to 10 minutes is probably the way that you have to do it. But then it gives them enough to want to see the tactile side of it as well. And that's why they come to the museum.
So how do you do that without going insane?
That is a great question. I think, storytelling is as old as time. And I'll give you an example. When I take people through our museum, one of the things that we have there are propaganda posters that come from World War I, World War II. And when I point to them and I say, by the way, this is your social media of the early 20th century.
Yeah.
Because you have provocative images that are designed to evoke an emotion. And that's really not different than what goes on today in social media. So the way that messaging is done, there's a nuance in the way that they're delivered, from 1945 to say 2026, but the intent is still there, the design is still there, and the worst thing to tell a baby boomer or a Gen Xer is, by the way, you got you sort of got information in the same way that the current generation is. They don't want to believe that. Oh no, I read books, or oh, I didn't watch a lot of television. That's just not true. These are all time-tested methodologies. And so really it's about creating those parallels and introducing this information in a way that our modern audience will enjoy. But as it turns out, it's really not all that different from what our previous audiences enjoyed.
Are you the one who decides the content gets boiled down into that smaller time frame, or do you have people helping you, maybe a committee, and says, okay, we want this message, so what do we need to put in there to get that message across? I'm just fascinated by how this works.
It's a multi-layered process. So we have a professional staff of about 20 people that work, part-time, full-time with us. People who are in our archives department, who are in our collections department, they're really engaged in the material every day. I'm the guy that, I'm the public figure. I am the one of the fundraisers. I do a lot of those things, and ultimately, I'm the strategic guy. But we have a committee we have a board, which is an incredibly capable board. We have an incredible group of folks who are mostly military connected in a lot of different ways, but also succeeded at some other part of life at the same time. So they not only succeeded in the military, but they're also very accomplished individuals.
Mm-hmm.
We also are building out now a group of advisors that are historians, that are people who are working in a lot of different walks of life to again, make those experiences real for people, in whether they're walking into a museum itself or whether they're engaging us online. And so there's going to be, more hands make less work, right? At the end of the day, a good product comes because you've included a lot of people and a lot of different perspectives, not because it all sprang out of my brain.
Let's talk a little bit about the collection. It's quite large, isn't it? Not only artifacts, but the library. It's I think, probably larger than what most people would think.
So the library itself has about 70,000. It has over 70,000 items today. I don't want to say books because they're predominantly books. We also have DVDs, CDs. We have board games. We have any number of things that are relevant to researching not only military history but military connected service, popular culture that fits within the military realm. So there's a lot of different items in there. And today, if you're not a member of the Pritzker Military Museum and Library, you can access our library through a catalog, and we can do interlibrary loan. Most of our items can be available through an interlibrary loan. The archival collection itself has over 40,000 items in it. That's everything from uniforms to propaganda posters to materials. So we have collections of letters and correspondence that come from soldiers back home to people, to people here explaining and detailing their life in a conflict or something like that. We have an incredible collection of correspondence from generals and admirals and other notable figures during World War II that were collected by a young man. He was a 14-year-old boy at the end of World War II and started writing letters to generals and admirals asking just for an autograph or a photo or something like that. And it turned into a long-term project where he was corresponding with a lot of very notable figures who would send him letters. One of my favorite examples in there is a letter he wrote to MacArthur on VJ Day, congratulating him for finally beating the Japanese. This was the third letter he'd sent to MacArthur asking for his signature. And, I think he appropriately shined up the general, as he appreciated doing, and, asked if he would mind sending an autograph. So MacArthur, in true MacArthur fashion, wrote his name on the letter that he sent him and sent it back to him. But these little snippets, the collection is just amazing. And so if you come, we do have a full tour, which it happens every first Friday. And you can come in and not only see what we have in the exhibit space, but also be able to take that tour into our archival collection and our library collection and meet with our collections team, who will tell you more information about them.
Does the museum own the artifacts, or is a certain percentage of it on loan to the museum, or how does that work?
Everything in our collection was accumulated either by the museum through donation, through purchase, or something like that.
Right.
So the one exception to that is, and I always make this clear, is that we have a Medal of Honor that was awarded to Woody Williams, who fought in World War II. He was a Marine. And was a hero at Iwo Jima. And we actually have two of Woody's medals, as well as all of his collection. He wanted to entrust that with us. So as I tell people, we don't own Woody's medal. We're holding it for him.
Yeah. Well, our listeners are probably familiar with him and the foundation his family has.
That's right.
Wow. So, well, listeners, let me direct your attention to the webpage for a couple of reasons. One, it's pritzkermilitary.org. So that is PRITZ, like zebra, ER, military.org. And I want everybody to go ahead and take a look at the webpage. And as you're all familiar with, I'm going to tell you what to do. When you hit that webpage, you look up in the right-hand corner, you're going to see that donate button, bang on it, give what you can. A place like this, just probably keeping the lights on is ridiculous expensive. So they're going to need all the help they can get to spread the word about veterans and their service and families of veterans and how families serve. And so your donations will really be going to a good cause. You'll also see that they're going to have their annual gala in Chicago at the Hyatt Regency McCormick Place, which anybody who's lived in the Chicago area knows where McCormick Place is, Saturday, September 19th. And it's a gala with themed Spirit of 76, Birth of the Citizen Soldier. And tell us a little bit about what's going to happen there at the gala. I'm assuming you're going to feed people, right?
It is a great event. For every table sponsorship that we do, this is what I really appreciate about how we approach things. For every table sponsorship that we have, we give away 2 seats at that table to someone who's either an active duty military veteran or active duty military, a veteran, a member of a military family. And so we invite the community to come in and spend time with us. There's no cost to them.
Right.
There will be a meal. We will recognize 3 recipients of our Founders Award. Our founder every year bestows Founders Awards toward people who are either making a significant difference in the veterans community, in the military community, or for the PMML.
Wow.
And in addition to that, we also recognize our Citizen Soldier of the Year. Now, that's not, I don't know if it's on the website yet or not, but I can tell you that our Citizen Soldier this year will be General Stanley McChrystal,
Oh, wow.
who will be there not only to receive the Citizen Soldier Award, but General McChrystal will also be our fireside chat host. So he will be speaking at the event as well. And for those of you who are familiar with General McChrystal, I suspect he could probably do hours upon hours of talks that would hold an audience's attention. So we only get in for about 20 minutes, but I think it's going to be 20 minutes well spent to hear him speak about, leadership and his time in serving in the military and all the things that he did, particularly his time with the global war on terror. And so if you're in the Chicagoland area, you can certainly go to the website, and we are already accepting sponsorships. I'm in process now of working through that. We had a very successful event last year. Would like to see us do that again this year, just to make General McChrystal feel at home here in Chicago. But we have friends and partners from all over the country that will be here for that night to honor him. And there is, we will not run out of tables. I say that we'll end up running out of tables, but there's never, there's always room for anyone who wants to come and join us for that event. So go to the website, learn more about it. It's not too early to plan to be there for that evening, but we know it's going to be a wonderful event.
Yeah. Well, here's to wishing that you run out of tables, because it's a big space, and that would be a great fundraiser if that happened for you. And wonderful choice of guest speaker, too. Wow, that's going to be something. So listeners, keep checking in on the webpage there, pritzkermilitary.org, and look for, continuing information about that and when tickets might be available, because I guarantee you it's going to be a really fun night. And I just wished I lived closer. I guess the one thing I'm very curious about is, how do you differentiate telling the same story to adult visitors as opposed to children and younger adults that might come for a tour as a school group?
So, the phrase I like to use is age appropriate. That is, when you're, when you're telling stories to adults, there are certain elements to the story that you can weave in. When you're sharing stories about loss and tragedy and suffering for, the under 18 crowd, the K-12 crowd, you have to be very careful about that. And instead you sort of focus on the conflict, you focus on the objectives of it. And, I am working now with a group of folks. It's going to take me a couple of years to get this completed, but really taking, distilling those lessons we've learned from citizen soldiers and turning that into a leadership learning opportunity, not just for adults, but also creating one that is aimed at school-age children so that they can feel a better connection to military service by learning the principles that many soldiers learned, in the battlefield, or, I've heard this story more than once, which is, I didn't know what I was capable of until I was asked to do it. And so, but part of that is because the military instills certain things in you. It attracts certain types of people. And so, they bring that valor with them. They didn't earn it when they got their uniform, but they bring that valor with them, and it just gets unlocked thanks to the U.S. military.
Do you remember the first group of school kids that you saw come through after you started in your position?
So we had a group come through, I want to say probably 2 or 3 weeks into my tenure there. And fortunately for us, we have the exhibits that we have right now. Now we're about to bring a different kind in, but most of the exhibits that we have there are art related or image related. And so it really gave the kids an opportunity to engage we have a Marine Corps art exhibit there now, which, I say this is the son of a Marine. I didn't know Marines were artists, but you know, it but having combat artists be able to sort of bring their story to life, that helps, I think, in a way for school age children to see something that is not graphic, it's not very intense, and it allows them to better understand a little bit more about the military experience. So we always want to make sure that we have those good visuals there that help them better understand and better appreciate military service with, again, without shocking them. So we try to keep that balance in play.
Oh. Well, what do you think? Well, let me ask you this. Where do you envision the library going, say, in 3 to 5 years? What would you like to see different?
One, I want to be able to have a visitor experience that has an emotional center to it. So we have the Medal of Honor exhibit. I want to take something like that story of a very heroic individual from really just a farm kid from nowhere, right? That's Woody, and what was put in an incredible situation, and uh, emerged from it as a true leader. And I want to be able to have those stories feel real to individuals who don't have that military service connection. Whether you're in Kenosha and you're engaging our museum by walking through the front door, or you come to my website and you're able to start hearing the oral histories that we have available, and really starting to understand the soldier experience, and being able to see the images that we have of our artifacts so that you can engage them and research them. So no matter where you are in the world, I want you to walk away from the Pritzker Military Museum and Library fully appreciating the lived experience of the soldiers their stories we tell as much as you can, consistent. And so my goal was to make that experience almost a 365 opportunity for you. Whether you're in the museum itself or you're on the website, you're engaged in that. And at the same time, add to the intellectual firepower that is about military history and even current policy. I mean, part of our ambit now is to introduce the Cold War element in there. And the reason for that is because even though we emerged victorious from the Cold War, it's not going to be the last one we deal with. I think there's one probably sitting there right now with us in China. And there's lived experiences through the previous Cold War can be very useful for us again. And so we want to make sure those lessons are there, that all the things that we learned from those moments can be discussed today and into the future.
Well, I agree with you. I think, we learn from history, and it's so important. We need to understand history to help us understand what we're in now and what the future may hold for us. And listeners, we did an episode on Cold War history with Gary Powers Jr. You can go back and listen to that. I think it was last season. And the Cold War Museum, which is right here in Northern Virginia. Again, that webpage is pritzkermilitary.org. Please visit the webpage, donate what you can, check out the collection, and then listen. Wisconsin is a really interesting state. They got a lot of cheese, and they got a lot of places to fish. If you like lake fishing, Wisconsin is a place for you. So if you're going up there to get cheese, or you're going up there to fish, or whatever you're going to do, swing by Kenosha and visit the museum and the library and check it out for yourself. It's a beautiful place, and it's quite a collection. And one last thing, too, before I forget. If somebody has material, let's say, I don't know, Grandpa Joe's uniform or Grandpa Joe's bayonet or Grandpa Joe's boots, I don't know. And is this something, can they donate artifacts to you? Is there a list of certain things you take, you don't take? How does it work?
So we encourage people to reach out to us in advance, let us know what they have. Often we get images with pictures and things like that. In some cases, particularly with uniforms, everyone's got a uniform. And so, I'm holding on to my dad's Marine Corps uniforms, and, I will treasure them, but they'll never be valuable to the museum itself because we already have those.
Yeah.
So it's really just it depends. Now, here's the trick to that, which is when people reach out to us, if we can't take it, we don't necessarily want it to disappear into the wind. And so we will work with you and make some suggestions about where you might be able to take it if we're not able to take it on. But there are also going to be other things that we know will be incredibly valuable as part of our collection and allow us to really tell that citizen soldier story. So please reach out to us, and you can reach out to me or anyone else. we'll get you to the collections team, and they'll work with you on what you have in your collection, give you some suggestions about what to do with it. We're also working on doing some online sessions where we can teach people how to preserve their family history. So if they want to hold on to dad's uniform, they can, and they want to protect it and make sure that it stays in the family. There's just some certain things you have to do in order to be a good steward of this, whether you're bringing it to a museum or holding on to it personally. So you will expect to see some more of that coming from us as time goes on. And then through those conversations, I suspect we'll get people who want to donate items to us, and they'll reach out to us and do that. So, but reach out to us anytime if you've got something valuable and you're looking to clear out the basement, or you're moving and you want to make sure that it's protected, or you live in a flood zone and you don't know what's going to happen to it. Reach out to us, because it's better to protect it today than worry about it tomorrow.
Yeah, and listeners, set your expectations properly too. It's one thing if your Grandpa Joe was an enlisted aide to a 3-star general, and he kept the general's dentures or something, as opposed to Uncle Joe who has a set of wrenches stamped U.S. government because he worked in the motor pool. So not everything from past military services is worth something. But if you do think you have a unique item that might be valuable to the collection, definitely reach out to them. And go on the webpage and you can see the collection. You can see what they have and what they are putting out, for people to look at. So don't throw it away. And like you said, they'll help you find a place for it or make some suggestions. And there may be a local historical society, or there may be a smaller museum regionally, or, just something local that it might be very interested in having it. So, again, the webpage is pritzkermilitary.org. Scott, I can't thank you enough for coming on and talking about this wonderful collection that you have.
I want to thank you for the time. One real quick thing, since your listeners are you have a lot of listeners in the Northern Virginia area. I just want to say hello to all my fellow Terrapin alum. So I'm a class of 93 graduate from the University of Maryland.
Wow.
And a longtime suffering Washington football fan. So my condolences to all my friends back home for sticking with the team. Thank you for your loyalty. And I'm out here in the Midwest suffering with you.
Well, I grew up with the Bears, so, yeah, it's crazy. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Hey, listeners, we'll have another episode next Monday morning at 0500. You can find us on all the major podcast platforms. We're on YouTube and Reese Across America Radio. So until then, thanks for listening.
The Welcome Home podcast is brought to you by Willing Warriors, a nonprofit organization serving active duty service members and veterans since 2012. To learn more, please visit our webpage at willingwarriors.org.